Hello, my name is Sophie, and welcome to a review and summary of the book Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas. This is the second book in the Throne of Glass series. It's split into two parts. It's 422 pages and 56 chapters in total, and it follows Celaena Sardothien, Adelin's assassin, the best to ever do it, on her quest for freedom and friendship. Just a little disclaimer, there's no way that I can get into reviewing this book without spoiling the first book. And I would assume that if you're watching this video, you've probably already read or know what happens in the first book. If you haven't read the first book and you don't intend on reading the first book, I have got a video. I've actually got 3 videos. I've already reviewed the first book in depth. So if you don't want to read the first book, but you want kind of a summary, you can head over and watch that video. But if you don't want to watch the video and you also don't want to read the book, I am going to do a little summary of the summary before we get started on a summary of the second book, just so that we can all jog our memories, know where we left off last time, and what we're heading into for this book. But just a disclaimer that there are going to be spoilers from the first book throughout this video. I just wanted to put that in right at the beginning so that we're all clear. Proceed with caution. Anyway, the layout of this video is going to be trigger warnings, the summary of the first book, a spoiler-free review of this book, and then we're going to jump into the spoiler review, spoiler summary. We're going to go in depth. Let's get into it. Okay, first up, trigger warnings. I got these from the trigger warning database. I'm just going to read them out to you now. This is a long list. Goodness. Forced servitude and slavery, misogyny, classism, persecution for witchcraft, mentioned, forced sex work, child abuse, cheating, trauma and nightmares, attempted suicide, ideation, alcohol consumption, graphic gore, vomiting, dead bodies, decapitation, grief and loss, death of a partner, death of parents, death of a friend, murder and attempted murder, and imprisonment. Whew, there's a lot going on there. I'm not going to go into too much detail with any nasty stuff. So if any of those aren't something that you want to consume today, then that is totally fine. Protect your peace, protect your mental state. We'll see you in another one, and take care of yourself. Everyone happy? Everyone good? We're all on the same page. We know what we're in for. Cool? Okay. So, our summary of Book 1, Throne of Glass. First up, we meet Celaena Sardothien, Adelin's assassin, the best to ever do it. And she is serving life in the salt mines of Endovia for being the best to ever do it. With great power comes great time in jail. She's released from Endovia by Dorian, the Prince of Adelin, and Kale, the Captain of the Guard. Both very attractive, by the way. Under the condition that she takes part in a competition against a bunch of criminals to become the evil king's champion, which is basically his personal unaliver, personal spy, the doer of all his dirty deeds. Now, if she wins, she'll serve him for a number of years before being released and free to live her life. But if she loses, then she has to go back to Endovia to serve the rest of her time, which is her whole life. And of course, Gully agrees, because what other choice does she have? They travel to the big and ugly glass castle in Rifthold, and the competition begins. Now, Celaena has to compete under an alias so that nobody knows that she's the best to ever do it. And she flies under the radar in the middle of the pack, making some allies and also making some enemies. Now, her main op is Kane, and he is the champion of Duke Perrington, who's one of the king's closest advisors. The day before their first test, however, a champion is found unalive.
Oh my gosh!
And nobody knows who did it. And this marks the start of a pattern in which a day or two before most of the tests, a champion goes missing and is later found unalive. Yikes. Quite early on in the first book, Celaena befriends Nehemia, who is the Princess of Ilway, one of the many kingdoms conquered by the evil king. They become friends because Celaena is the only one who can speak Ilway and Nehemia can't speak the common language. They bond over their mutual hatred for everyone in the castle. She also grows close to Kale in the first half of the book, and they form this begrudging friendship because he's her mentor, and so they have to spend a load of time together. And the prince is MIA for most of the first half of the book. We don't know where that guy is. He's just off having a good time, I guess.
Huh.
Selena also makes some crazy discoveries, such as these strange marks that begin popping up everywhere, around the freaky clock tower in the courtyard, and also around some of the bodies of the unalived champions. They are called word marks, and they contain a power separate to magic, which the king actually banned 10 years ago. Soon after he banned it and demolished everything to do with it, including the people, magic vanished altogether on its own. Interesting. Selena also discovers a secret passage in her room,
Wow.
as you do, and this secret passage led to a network of secret tunnels under the castle. These tunnels go to all sorts of different places, but the most interesting place is a tomb that houses two very important historical figures. One of them is Gavin, who's the first king of Adelan, and the other is Elena, the first princess of Terrasen, which is where Selena's from, and she's also Gavin's wife. Selena discovers this tomb, not in person, but in a dream, in which Elena appears to her as like a ghost, and she gives her an amulet to protect her, and also a side quest to defeat the evil in the castle. When Selena wakes up from the dream, she's holding the amulet.
Oh my gosh!
It was real! This is crazy! In the second half of the book, Selena and Dorian start growing closer, they spend some time together, they start flirting, but then things take a turn. Nehemia reveals that she has in fact been lying to Selena because she can speak Adelanian. She's been able to speak Adelanian. She been new Adelanian. Not only this, but she can also read and use the word marks, which she had previously claimed to know nothing about. Awkward! This discovery leads Selena to start suspecting Nehemia of being involved in the unaliving of the champions, which her and Kale had discovered was being carried out by someone who was summoning a creature that was then unaliving the champions. Due to her growing suspicion of Nehemia, Selena decides to infiltrate the Yulmus ball. She wasn't invited to this ball, but she wants to keep an eye on Nehemia just in case she decides to take drastic measures to exact revenge on the king after his recent unaliving of a bunch of Ilway rebels. Nehemia doesn't do anything though, and Selena ends up dancing the night away with the prince. Much to Kale's jealous dismay. And the two of them end the night with their first kiss.
Ew!
After this, Dorian is in love. However, Selena is not feeling quite as committed to their relationship. She's having a good time though. Dorian also gives Selena a dog for Yulmus. She's called Fleetfoot and she's very cute. The final duel is fast approaching, and Duke Perrington, the king's close advisor that I mentioned earlier, enlists the help of Caltaine, who is a snake and after Dorian's hand in marriage, to ensure that Cain wins the duel by drinking Selena's cup of wine that they will drink before they compete.
Oh no.
Low blow. A couple of days before the duel, Selena discovers that the creature being used to unalive the champions is called a Ridderak, and that the word marks around the victims were used as a sacrificial spell, allowing the person summoning the Ridderak to exchange the flesh of the sacrifice for the strength of the victim.
Wow.
Selena is now convinced it's Nehemia because she thinks that she's trying to start a rebellion or something,
Huh.
and has also decided that she must be using the secret passages to move around the castle with the Ridderak. But when she gets down there with sheer willpower and a tiny little makeshift stabby thing, she discovers that it's Cain. Nobody was that surprised, but cool. Cain sets the Ridderak on her, and she does manage to defeat it, but in the process she gets bitten by its poisonous teeth. But before she can succumb to the poison, Nehemia saves her by using the word marks. Thanks, Nehemia. At the final duel, Kale offers Selena his own sword to fight with.
Aww.
Very cute. But she declines in favour of using Nehemia's staff, which I was a bit miffed about. Obviously, Selena and Cain end up facing each other, but she drinks the wine that Caltaine gave her and is immediately beaten to a pulp. Then, to add insult to injury, Cain reveals that he in fact has a demon army at his beck and call that no one but him and Selena can see, but that will very definitely unalive her. Just before this happens though, Elena busts in and she banishes the demon army back to wherever they came from, and also draws the poison out of Selena, who then immediately demolishes Cain and wins the duel. However, just as she's announced the winner, Cain tries to stab her in the back, literally. What the heck, dude? Sore loser much? But luckily, Kale saw and manages to step in front of him just in time and unalives Cain. Thanks, Kale. You're the best. Duke Parrington then frames Caltaine for being the sole instigator of the poisoning, and she gets taken away to the dungeons. The snake was snaked by a secret snake. This is crazy. After Celaena recovers from her many injuries, Dorian comes to tell her that his father has drawn up a contract for her to sign, and she will become the King's champion. Yay! But then she breaks up with him. So poor guy, that was a rough one. She then makes it abundantly clear to Kale that it would be inappropriate for her to have a relationship with a prince. Oink oink. Oh. So I wonder what's going to happen with that in this next book. We then find out through a meeting with the King and Parrington that him and Parrington have like this secret boys club where they wear these black chunky rings that have some sort of power that allows them to manipulate people. And they have been. They have been manipulating people. Cain was being manipulated by them, and also Caltaine was being manipulated by them. Interesting. Then we ended off the book with Celaena signing a contract to be the King's champion for the next 4 years. And he threatens that if she disobeys him in any way, he's going to unalive Kale, and then also unalive Nehemia, and then also unalive Nehemia's whole family. And so then Celaena signs the contract, and that's it. The end. Uh-oh. And that's it. That's the whole of the first book. Now you don't have to read it, because you know what happens. Probably still read it, though, because I did miss lots of bits out. But that's the main stuff. That's the main stuff. On to the spoiler-free review of Crown of Midnight. Let's get into it. Woo. First up, I'm going to read you the blurb. Crowned by evil, bound by duty, divided by love. Celaena Sardothien, royal assassin, is the king of Adelin's deadliest weapon. She must win her freedom through his enemy's blood, but she cannot bear to kill for the crown. And every death Celaena fakes, every lie she tells, puts those she loves at risk. Torn between her two protectors, a captain and a prince, and battling a dark force far greater than the king, Celaena must decide what she will fight for, her liberty, her heart, or the fate of a kingdom. Okay, so I'm not gonna lie, I don't think that this blurb is as strong as the blurb from Throne of Glass, if we're being completely honest. There's a couple of reasons for this. One, I feel like in the last book, when I said it wasn't giving us much to go on, that was a good thing. But now I fear it's giving us nothing to go on. Yeah, I really don't think it gives us any kind of idea of what's going to happen. Also, it says torn between her two protectors, a captain and a prince, but like, we all know she ended it with Dorian at the end of the last book. So she's not really torn, is she? I guess you could say that maybe she's not gotten over him, but like, she ended it. And I think it was pretty obvious the whole time that we were going through it that she wasn't as invested in the relationship as Dorian was. So I'm not 100% sure what she's talking about here. Anyway, let's get into the general vibes of the book. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail than the blurb, but not enough to give you any spoilers. And then obviously after this, if you don't want it spoiled, probably hop off, read it, come back, and then we can discuss. But obviously if you've already read it, if you know what happens, we'll go through the general vibes anyway, just so we know what we're getting ourselves into, and then we'll get into the deep dive. The deep dark dive. It's not that dark. Well, maybe it's a little bit. So, Celaena is the king's champion now, but as the blurb was saying, she has not been unaliving any of the people the king has been telling her to. She's just been faking their unalivings and then smuggling them out of Adeline.
Oh my god!
Whew. She likes to live on the edge. That is a risky move, but okay, we respect it. The next target she's given is a supposed rebel trying to thwart the king's plans, but it ends up being someone she knew growing up. And she gives him a month to get his affairs in order in return for him feeding her information about a real rebel group that he knows about in the city. While all this is happening, Nehemia, Celaena's bestie, is growing increasingly uncomfortable with Celaena's role in the castle and is pushing for her to do something, anything, to fight against the king. Because as we learned at the end of the last book, Nehemia is low-key a rebel spy. So to have Celaena, Adelin's assassin and the best to ever do it, on her side would be very beneficial for her. Also, as the king's champion, Celaena could be feeding her a lot of information. Celaena and Dorian aren't really speaking anymore after their breakup at the end of the last book. We don't talk anymore, we don't talk anymore, we don't talk anymore like we used to do. What was all of it for? Ooh, We don't talk anymore like we used to do. Anyway, but her and Kale, now they are closer than ever. They spend literally all of their free time together. They go on runs together in the morning. Selena just goes to his room after dinner most nights. I think she mostly does it because she doesn't want to be in her room because of all the crazy stuff that's gone down. But that's pretty sweet, you know? And there is definitely a vibe there, if you know what I mean. And as I said before, I'm not entirely sure that I agree with the blurb on this one, because as much as Selena's like missing Dorian as a friend and missing their conversations, they're 100% over. Like, her sights are elsewhere now. Honey, you got a big storm coming. We also have a quote from Elena to remember going into this second book, which is, blood ties can't be broken, which is very interesting, especially considering that Elena was the first princess of Terrasen, which is where Selena comes from. We'll see what happens there, but bear that in mind. That's all I'll say in terms of the plot. I don't want to give too much away. I just wanted to give like the general vibe going into it from book one. Now, on to my thoughts and feelings, my pros and cons, my yays and nays. I think I might like this book a smidge more than the first book. I don't know, I feel like we get more into it in this one. The first book feels like it was setting us up for the stuff that was gonna happen in this book. I still love the amount of stuff that's happening. There's never a dull moment. There's always something happening. The filler information isn't boring. It just gets you deeper into the characters' stories. You know, nothing feels unnecessary. I'm not sure I mentioned this in the first book review, but I love the multiple POV situation Sarah J. Maas has got going on in here. I love being in the different characters' minds so you know exactly what they're all feeling. Also, that way, there's always something interesting going on. I do also think that it's very effectively done in this book. We're not unnecessarily jumping from one person's mind to another. When it's happening, it needs to be happening. I feel like you get to know all of the characters better, which, I don't know, that just makes me more invested, because now I'm invested in every character's life and not just the main character, you know? And finally, my last pro. I love the romance in this book. The tension building is just great, and I feel like this has been a long time coming, if you know what I mean. There are a couple of things that I'm not as big of a fan of. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of the cover. Like, let me see if I can show you real close up. Why is her face grey? She looks like a ghost, but a marble statue as well. But now I feel like it's always going to be in the back of my mind if that's what she's supposed to look like. I don't know. I want to be able to picture it in my own mind. Like, give me a description, sure, but don't give me this. I do like the fact that the dress on the back is one that she actually wears in the book. That's good attention to detail. I appreciate that, but just not a huge fan of the drawing. I would prefer like a little pattern or something. I know I've already mentioned it, the blurb. It's not my fave. I don't think it's particularly accurate, and I also don't think it really gives us anything to go on here, so I'm not raving about it like I was the blurb in the first book. But you can't have everything, you know? That's all I can think of right now. If anything else comes up throughout the course of the book, I'll just bring it up when I think of it. When it comes up, we can just discuss it. So, I think that's all I have to say before we actually get into it. As I mentioned before, the book is split POVs, so I'll just mention when we change into someone else's point of view. Don't worry about it. I'm going to cover the first part of the book, which is called The King's Champion, and then I will cover the second part of it, The Queen's Arrow, in a separate video. So, let's get into it. Okay, jumping into chapter 1, we're in Selena's POV, and the King's Champion is championing. She's in some lord's house to take him out. She's snuck up a drain pipe and like climbed through a window. There's a storm going on, so she's used all of the thunder and lightning to mask her entry into the house. And she sneaks into his bedroom. She stands over him with her sword raised above her head. And as she's standing there, sword raised, his eyes snap open. Dun dun dun. And that's the first chapter. We're literally in it, guys. We are into it. Wow. Then we get chapter 2, and now we've skipped, and she's back in the castle, carrying a very ominous bag up to the king. Yikes, I wonder what's in there. We learn that now that she's the king's champion, she outranks pretty much everyone in the castle, and they're also all terrified of her. She's pretty much the coolest gal. And are we surprised? No, we already knew this. Anyways, she heads into the throne room for a meeting with the king, also with this ominous bag, and Dorian and Kale are both there. Our boys are in the room with us. How exciting. Hello again. So it turns out that there is in fact a head and 2 hands in this ominous bag that Selena's been lugging around. And she She just like rolls the head to the king, like it's a bowling ball. She's like, here you go, bro. I think actually she tips it out and it rolls in a cartoonish fashion towards him and like lands at the foot of the throne. And he's like, oh. So these extremities are proof that she unalived the people she was supposed to. At the sight of these, Dorian's looking a little bit queasy, and Selena is not sympathetic at all. She's thinking, he knew what I did before the competition. Why is he fazed by this? I don't know. Maybe it's because you just pulled a head out of a bag and rolled it like a bowling ball. But at the same time, I kind of agree with her, because he did know that she was Adelin's assassin. That obviously involves unaliving people. So it's probably a good thing that they're not in a relationship anymore, because he would have been very unsupportive and she would have just felt really bad. But if he'd put 2 and 2 together before, he could have thought, this is what she did before. This is what she's fought in the competition to become. So, 2 and 2 is 4, and she's the king's champion, so she's gonna unalive people. Oh, it's okay though. I do understand. I too would have been taken aback if she pulled her head out of a bag. So the king seems satisfied enough with her proof. I should hope so. And then he informs her of her next mission. There are rebels in Rifthold. Alliteration. And these rebels are trying to interfere with his plans, and also get him off the throne. Not great. And he wants Selena to get rid of them, if you know what I mean. He says he's going to give her one name at a time because spies and stuff, and he hands her a piece of paper with the first name on it. Archer Finn. She knows this guy. When she was training at the Assassin's Keep with Arabin Hamel, he had come for self-defense lessons, and she had a massive crush on him. Interesting. He's a courtesan, which basically means that people pay him to give them a fun time, if you know what I'm saying. He is a gentleman of the night. Selena is thinking this guy is not the type for rebellion, but okay, and she is determined to get to the bottom of where all these rumors started. The king gives her 1 month to take Archer out, and so she gathers up the head and the hands and heads off to dispose of them, leaving everyone green and feeling slightly icky in her wake. Then we hop into Dorian's POV. I, for one, am very interested as to how he is feeling about all of this. And he is horrified at what Selena has done, which is valid. But again, like I said previously, what did he think was going to happen? According to Dorian, Selena has not been herself, or the version of herself that she was when she first arrived to the castle, since she started her job as the king's champion. And Dorian's wondering now if she was manipulating him with her behavior before. He's thinking, was she just being that nice to me and, making me fall in love with her? But she didn't make him fall in love with her. Let's not get it twisted. She was down for a little bit of flirting. He was like, I'm going to marry this woman. So, hold up. But anyway, he's wondering if all of that behavior before had been a manipulation tactic so that he would fight for her if it came down to it, because obviously his father's the king. Dorian. We know Selena. So we know she wouldn't have done that. He's not in her head. So how would he know? Clearly there's been some shift in the way that she speaks to him and the way that she acts and stuff that we haven't seen because we haven't been here. We've been away for a little bit. Clearly there's been a shift, and he's now starting to think, was this all a manipulation before? And now that she's the king's champion, she doesn't need me anymore. She doesn't need my protection. And so she's just cut me off. So we'll see where that goes, I guess. Next, we head back into Selena's point of view. She's heading down to the sewer to dispose of the parts, and Kale's following her like a creepy creep. Like, why are you walking behind her? Just stand next to her. I don't know. Anyway, she clocks him on it because she is still our sassy queen. So, she said without looking behind her, are you going to say hello, or are you just going to follow me everywhere? She turned to face him, the sack still dangling from her hand. Are you still acting like the king's champion, or are you back to being Selena? In the torchlight, his bronze eyes glittered. Of course, Kale would notice the difference. He noticed everything. She couldn't tell whether it pleased her or not, especially when there was a slight bite to his words. Interesting. Now we've learned that she's clearly got a different persona as the king's champion, and this must be why Dorian is thinking that she might have been manipulating him. Clearly they haven't been seeing each other as much in private, and he's only seeing her during her interactions with the king, where she's got this persona on. So that's all he's seeing right now. So he's like, she's changed. Her true colours are coming out and she's evil. She was manipulating me. Kayla's also obviously not a fan of this champion persona either. he also apparently hates when she goes on missions. These guys just cannot put two and two together. Like, what did you think she was gonna do when she became the king's champion? She had to go to unalive the people. It wasn't just gonna be people inside the castle. Like, she was gonna have to leave. And now we're like, oh, this is terrible. Why does she have to do this? Because that's her job. That's her job, bro. Anyway, he reveals that there was a rumor that the person who unalived the lord that Celaena unalived was actually caught, and until Celaena had shown up, he had thought that it was her. And he had been about to leave to go and find her when she just showed up. So he was clearly very worried. She's all like, Kale, don't worry. I'm the best to ever do it. But then he grabs her and he hugs her. Aww. She didn't have time to brace herself as he pulled her against him, his arms wrapping tightly around her. She didn't hesitate before twining her arms over his shoulders, breathing in the scent of him. He hadn't held her since the day she'd learned she had officially won the competition, though the memory of that embrace often drifted into her thoughts. And as she held him now, the craving for it never to stop roared through her. His nose grazed the nape of her neck. Gods above, you smell horrible, he muttered. Why does she always stink? This isn't something I mentioned in the first book, but every 5 minutes, someone was telling her that she stank. Get this girl some deodorant. I beg. Anyways, after she's washed and seen Fleetfoot and debriefed Kale, she heads into bed, and this is where she informs us that she has not in fact unalived anyone.
Oh my gosh!
We knew this. It turns out that she's just been breaking into their homes and giving them the choice of faking their unalivings and moving away, or actually being unalived. So I know which one I'm picking, personally. And, like me, all of the 4 men that she has been ordered to take out so far have all chosen the former. This does seem super risky though, because who is to say that one of them isn't going to spill the beans to someone in Rifthold, which obviously means that there's a chance that word could get back to the king. She's put in a lot of faith in these people that the king has ordered her to unalive. We respect it, but also I'm not sure it's particularly smart, you know? After she fakes their unaliving and they move away, she then uses other body parts from like similar looking, already unalived people that she just finds lying around. I don't know. The death rate in Adeline is clearly rather high for there to just be bodies scattered around that she can just, I'll have this one. Nice. Another hand. And by the time she's got back to the castle, it's kind of decomposed enough that it's not really recognizable anyway. So that's how she's been getting away with it.
Huh.
Anyways, nobody knows that she's doing this, and she feels that she can't risk telling anyone just in case the king finds out, because I don't know if anyone remembers his threat from the end of the last book that he would unalive Kale, unalive Nehemia, and then also unalive Nehemia's whole family just for good measure if she didn't obey everything that he asked of her. The stakes are pretty high for her right now, which again is one of the reasons why I'm thinking this is a pretty risky move to be faking their unalivings and just sending them on their way. There's a lot at stake. Are we sure we thought this through? Anyway, she hasn't got caught yet, so this is promising. We also find out in this chapter that she has not seen Elena since the end of the last book, where they had their little chat about blood ties can't be broken. The next morning, Celaena and Nehemia head to the game park to play fetch with Fleetfoot, and while they're out there, they discuss Celaena's mission to take out Archer. Nehemia wants Celaena to gather information on the king's plans and then share it with her, but Celaena is pretty hesitant about this, and Nehemia is not happy about it. She's all about, you can only gather information for so long, like, when do we start actually doing stuff? And to this, Celaena is like, I don't know. In response to this, Nehemia just leaves. Clearly, the friendship's pretty strained at the moment because of Celaena's new role, and again I say, what did you think was going to happen? After this, Celaena is like, guess I'm going to go shopping. Okay, girl, you're making that bank. I guess go and spend it. Chapter 4, we're in Kale's POV now, and him and Celaena are out on a morning run. Kale is thinking about how much he hates when Celaena goes away, and also about how traumatized he is after unaliving King. Bro is still not over it. He also goes on about the line between them that he just can't cross because it could ruin his reputation and cost him his job and also his friendship with Dorian, blah blah blah. Who is he without his loyalty, blah blah blah. But then also, when she touches its arm, the urge to lean into her warmth was staggering. I think he's coping, and that's okay. Something I enjoy about this book is the ongoing metaphor of the line between Chaol and Celaena. I believe that it started during the duel with Cain, when Celaena was like prone on the ground. She thought it was over for her, and then Chaol slid his fingers up to the line and she slid her fingers onto the other side of the line, and they didn't quite touch because they had this line in between them. And I feel that that is a fun little metaphor to continue going into this book. I don't know, I just thought I'd mention it here because Chaol does bring it up quite a lot. Anyway, back to it. Chaol's down bad, but he's in denial, and they finish their run, and we hop back into Celaena's POV, and as they're heading back to the castle, all of these ladies are out walking in the castle grounds. Now I wonder why this is happening. Well, it turns out that all of these ladies are here to watch Chaol walking around in his sweat-soaked shirt. Ladies. Wow. Apparently every morning, more and more women turn up, dressed in their finery, before dawn to walk around in the gardens very, very nonchalantly, just to get a glimpse of Chaol's torso. Not even bare torso. He's still clothed, but clearly he is just that jacked that it is worth getting up hours before dawn to get all dressed up just to look at him. And I respect the grind. I really, really do. Celaena is totally not jealous. Definitely no jealousy going on there. She definitely doesn't want to punch them all in the face. There's no animosity between her and any of these women. She just loves it. She loves it for him. She loves it for them. Anyway, as they're fighting their way through all of these ladies, they run into Dorian and this other guy. His name is Lord Roland Haviliad. He's Dorian's cousin. Now, there seems to be some tension between Roland and Chaol. Apparently, Roland is here to join the King's Council, and at this news, Chaol seems even less pleased. Celaena also notices bad vibes radiating from Roland. She is not getting good energy off of this man. Something seems suspicious, something seems off. But then we head into Dorian's POV, and he is feeling pretty jealous of Celaena and Chaol. Understandably so, she just broke it off with him and is now spending a lot of time with his bestie, while his bestie's shirt is like soggy and stuff.
Ew.
And he's like, wow, this is sad for me. And it is. Dorian, I think you need to start going on morning runs and also getting your shirt soggy if you want to compete with Chaol. Just saying. We learn from Dorian that Chaol does hate Roland. That's why there was some tension there. And we also learned that 3 years ago, he punched Roland in the face. He doesn't tell us why. We just know that that occurred, and also that Roland deserved it, apparently. So I guess we have to wait to find out. Thanks for nothing, Dorian. You could have at least told us. Anyway, we head back into Celaena's POV, and she has just come back from shopping. She is Adeline's assassin, the best to ever do it, but she's also just a girl. I'm just a girl. I'm just a girl in the world. That's all that you'll let me be. Oh, I'm just a girl. I don't know any of the other words. Anyway, she walks in and Dorian is sitting in her living room. Hey, awkward. He's like, wow, that's a lot of stuff. And she's like, what you doing here? And he's like, well, you said you wanted to be friends. Like, I'm here to be your friend. And she does want to be friends. And she misses him as a friend. But she's just not sure if she can be friends with him because he's too hot and he's also the son of the evil king who controls her entire future. There's lots of conflicting emotions going on here, lots of conflicting feelings. Dorian's sensing off vibes from Celaena, and so he's like, do you want me to fight for you? Like, what do you want from me? And she basically just ends up telling him to leave, and it's quite sad and it's quite uncomfortable. It's pretty awkward between them right now. I feel like that was a check-in. We've had a check-in with Chaol. There's vibes there. They clearly both like each other. We've had a check-in with Dorian as well. The vibes are uncomfortable. She kind of wants him to leave her alone. He still really cares for her, but also is like, ooh, why are you unaliving people? So, it's rough. It's rough out here. We're in the trenches. In chapter 5, Celaena is doing a bit of recon on Archer. She's tracking him through Rifthold as he visits his clients, and there's nothing out of the ordinary. She gets back and goes to visit Chaol in his rooms, as is their new routine. She goes there, they hang out, they chill. And this is the first time that we're really seeing inside of Chaol's rooms. How exciting. We're getting to know him a little bit more. It's a small room, it's minimalistic, it's very well organized. A reflection of his personality, you know, and it's the complete opposite to Celaena's, but it's also very cozy. Cute. We like the vibes. I can imagine it in my brain. Kale tells her that the reason he hates Roland is because 3 years ago, Roland slept with Kale's girlfriend.
Oh my gosh!
Scandalous. Poor Kale, that's rough. She's like, ooh, that is rough, man. Sorry to hear that, you know. And so Kale walks her back to her rooms, and when they get there, Selena says, "For what it's worth, Kale," she said. He faced her, his hands in his pockets. She gave him a light smile. If she picked Roland over you, that makes her the greatest fool who ever lived. He stared at her for a long moment before he quietly said, "Thank you," and walked back to his room. Selena watched him go, watched those powerful muscles shifting in his back, visible even through his dark tunic, suddenly grateful that this Lithian had long ago left the castle. He's got some nice back muscles. But yes, I do apologize. I probably didn't pronounce that person's name right, but she's irrelevant, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Sorry, Lithian, or whatever your name is, but you're irrelevant. Anyway, like 5 minutes later, Selena goes on a little hot girl walk because she can't sleep or something, and she heads to the library. We love the library. But when she gets there, there's someone standing outside. Fine, not unusual. People stand, and there's a library. They could be standing outside the library. However, they're wearing a cloak, and they're giving creature, not person. It also apparently moves like smoke and shadow, which also isn't a particularly person-y thing. And then, to top it all off, her amulet starts glowing. Something's afoot. And when the amulet starts glowing, it scares this thing off. And it, like, scurries away back into the library. Funnily enough, Selena does not go into the library. And this is definitely not a person, and it's definitely not good. So she does go back to her room. She's not running. But she is walking rather speedily. And I don't blame her. I would also be doing that. This is possibly the first smart thing that Selena's ever done. Selena's common sense was turned on in this section of the book, and we applaud her for that. Well done, girl. Well done. As she's definitely not running back to her rooms, she tries to come up with some rational conclusions about who this could have been, but she can't, so she decides to head to the tomb to see if Elena's there, to give her some answers or something. She gets down to the door of the tomb, and all of a sudden, that skull knocker that was on the door, it just starts yapping at her, and it asks if she's gonna knock. I don't think that that's supposed to happen, to be honest. And Selena's like, OMG. She says a load of curse words, understandably. I would be there as well, doing that. And the knocker is like, ugh, don't be so pathetic. The skull huffed, its eyes narrowing. I'm attached to this door. I cannot harm you. But she swallowed hard. Magic. It was impossible. It should be impossible. Magic was gone, vanished from the land 10 years ago, before it had even been outlawed by the king. Everything in this world is magic. Thank you ever so kindly for stating the obvious. What I'm getting is the skull is sassy. And I'm here for it, honestly. This might be my new favourite character. It turns out the skull's name is Mort, and he was put on the door by King Brannon, Elena's father and the first king of Terrasen, to watch over her tomb. Selena asks Mort if Elena is there, and Mort's like, duh, she's been here for 1,000 years, lol. I love this guy. But it does turn out that Elena is not there in the way that Selena meant, but she did leave Mort with a message for Selena. If I could leave you in peace, I would. But you have lived your life aware that you will never escape certain burdens. Whether you like it or not, you are bound to the fate of this world. As the king's champion, you are now in a position of power, and you can make a difference in the lives of many. Selena's stomach turned over. Cain and the Ridrak were just the beginning of the threat to Aurelia, Mort said, the words echoing around the tomb. There is a far deadlier power poised to devour the world, and I have to find it, I suppose. Yes, there will be clues to lead you to it. Signs you must follow. Refusing to kill the king's targets is only the first and smallest step. So another side quest, I see. So, what I'm getting from that is that there is, in fact, some more unknown evil in the castle. It's like book one all over again. Selena's all like, eye roll, sigh. She wants me to find out what power the king has, because this is all connected to him, right? And Mort's all like, probably. And so naturally, as she does, Selena has a tantrum and is like, no, I don't wanna. I'm not gonna. You can't make me. I'm not gonna do it. And she storms away. So in conclusion, I would say that this was both a mature and productive encounter. The next morning, Selena decides that it would be stupid of her to not try and find the even worse threat to Aurelia that Maud had mentioned, because Elena had never said that Selena had to defeat it, she just said that she had to find it. I fear we're coping, but that's okay. She also decides that she needs to speak to Archer at some point, because if he is part of a rebellion, he might have some information on the king. The first thing we're going to tackle is Archer. And Selena decides to bring Kale along with her because he's been feeling a little bit left out recently. He wants to help, and Selena's thinking, this is a pretty inoffensive way that he could help me without getting in my way or finding out that I'm not actually unaliving any of the people that I'm supposed to be. So they head out and they bump into Archer outside a little tea court where he was having some lunch. Very nice. Now let me tell you, the vibes between Selena and Archer are immediately crazy. I was not expecting these vibes. The exquisite face gaping at her broke into a grin. Lena? She'd planned to smile anyway, but when she heard his old pet name for her, Archer! She felt Kale stiffen slightly, but she didn't bother to glance at him. It was hard to look away from Archer, who had been and still was the most beautiful man she'd ever seen. Not handsome. Beautiful. His skin glowed golden even in the height of winter, and his green eyes. Gods above and words save me. His mouth was a work of art too, all sensual lines and softness that begged to be explored. Oh my lord, what the hell? We were not expecting this, let me tell you. Again, fickle as hell, Selena. What were we saying about 5 minutes ago? Whatever her name was that was your ex-girlfriend was so stupid. She was the most stupidest girl in the world to leave you. And now she's out here eye-banging Archer, who she hasn't seen in years and doesn't really even know that well. Rein it in, girl. Rein it in. Wow. No man is safe from this girl. She'd mentioned having a crush on him when she was younger, and clearly it is still alive and well. They flirt a lot, and Selena explains that she works for the king now, which is how she got out of Endovia, and she also asks him out to dinner tomorrow night. Ooh. He accepts, and Kale is standing there, stonily, looking as unamused as he ever has been, possibly slightly more. And I don't blame him. I thought there were vibes between them. Now he's watching this flirt fest. Goodness. Then we get to find out how he really feels because we hop into Kale's POV, and he is unamused by all of this. During the whole exchange, all he'd really been able to think about was how much he wanted to slam Archer's pretty face against a stone building. Kale wasn't a fool. He knew some of her smiles and blushing hadn't been acted, and though he had no claim on her, though making a claim would be the stupidest thing he could ever do, the thought of her being susceptible to Archer's charms made him want to have a little chat with the courtesan. I think he's a bit jealous. He's especially mad about Archer's nickname for Selena, Lena. And he does make that pretty clear. He's all like, I didn't realize you knew each other that well. He does console himself with the fact that she is going to have to unalive Archer in under a month. Wow. And Selena does reassure him that she hates the nickname. So he's feeling a bit better. I would say Kale's gaining some questionable morals. We're now on chapter 8, and we're in Dorian's POV. He's at a state dinner with a bunch of fancy people, and Selena and Kale are both on guard duty. Now, Dorian's feeling pretty annoyed because Selena keeps glancing at him, right? Fine. But then she also keeps glancing at Kale. And every time she glances at Kale, her eyes go all gooey, mushy, you know? And that is not the case when she's glancing at Dorian. He's pretty vexed. And he is in fact so vexed that he just leaves. But Selena follows him because she wants to warn him about the bad vibes that she's getting from Roland. She suggests to Dorian that Roland's going to use him for his power. And Dorian's all like, oh yeah, like how you use me to become champion. Whoa, damn. There was no tiptoeing around that one. And Selena is pissed. I can see it from both perspectives. He's not in her brain, she's not in his brain, so they're not seeing it from the other person's point of view. But Selena does tell him that he's a brat used to getting what he wants, and that he's throwing a fit because he didn't get her this one time, and he wanted her. Burn! Ooh. And then she leaves. He's left flabbergasted and also very annoyed. I do feel bad for Selena in this situation because she's clearly worried about Dorian and the fact that she thinks that Roland might use him, and she's gone out of her way to tell him that and to try and look out for him and stuff. And his response was just, oh yeah, because you used me as well. So that was a bit of a low blow from Dorian there. Moving on, we're now back in Selena's point of view, and she is headed down to the dungeons to see Kaltain. I wonder what she could want with her. Now, Kaltain is not looking or smelling so hot, and her living conditions are poor. She's not being treated well in the dungeons. Selena has come to ask her about Roland. I respect the fact that even though Selena and Dorian just had a fight, she's still trying to look out for him and find out what Roland's really about. So she asks Kaltain, do you think Roland's trustworthy? And Kaltain's like, for sure, nah. Not at all. But I'm not going to tell you why, though.
Huh.
Even though she's in the dungeons and locked up, she is still petty as hell. And I think I respect her for it, to be honest. Selena tries to ask Kaltain a couple more questions after this, but Kaltain's yapping a load of nonsense about crows flying around. They're underground. There are no crows. And Selena feels bad for her, so she gives her her cloak.
Aww.
And at this, Kaltain snaps out of her trance situation long enough to say, something is coming, she whispered, and I am to greet it. Ominous. I'm sure that will come back up, but for now, get well soon, Kaltain. Wishing you all the best, girlie. Later that day, Selena and Nehemia are having some breakfast in bed. So Selena must have gone to see Kaltain pretty darn early in the morning. But anyway, Nehemia drops some lore in this part of the book about Selena's homeland, Terrasen, and how it was the strongest kingdom in the land, in the whole freaking land.
Wow.
And that is why the King of Adelan targeted it first, because it was only the element of surprise that allowed him to overpower it. Apparently there's one other kingdom that is also very powerful called Wendelin, but they did not help at all during the king's takeover of all of the land. So they're flops. I don't know what else to say. Nehemia also informs us that Roland has been tasked with dealing with her. Rude. Apparently she's a bit too outspoken and people don't like it. They hate it when a woman talks. Too bad. Because we're yapping here. Moving into chapter 10. We are back in Dorian's POV and he's with Kale. And you know what that means. It's check-in time with the boys. Yes! So, Dorian's little brat brother Holland has just come home for a bit.
Ew.
So naturally they trash talk him for a little bit before Selena inevitably comes up because she is going for dinner with Archer tonight. And Kale confesses that he is an Archer hater. I wonder why. Dorian is on the same page as us. He is assuming, rightly so, that Kale is jealous of Archer because of the vibes between him and Selena. And Selena just broke Dorian's heart, right? And now his best friend is coming to him and acting all possessive and being like, oh, she's going on a date with this other guy and I don't like him, blah, blah, blah. And Dorian's like, really? We have to have this conversation now? After we just broke up? Bro, read the freaking room. And I do not blame him, because even though Kale has not directly said, oh, I'm really annoyed because she's going on a date with someone else, you know he's thinking it. So, Dorian says, I don't think you need to worry about Archer stealing her away, especially if he's going to be dead by the end of the month. It came out sharper and colder than he intended. Kale cut a glance at him. You think that's what I'm worried about? Yes, and it's obvious to everyone except the two of you. Uh-oh, tension between the bros. This is awkward. Anyway, then we head back into Selena's point of view. She's dressed up. She's looking amazing. She is wearing the dress on the back of the book. This is the dress on the back of the book moment. Reminder, obviously you can't see it that well because of the writing, but we've got like a black lace back going on and it's red and the sleeves are long. It's pretty scandalous. For the time, that was a pretty scandalous fit. She's really pushing the boundaries. Apparently Archer likes that. She's trying to show him that she's the woman now, you know. Anyway, she looks hot and she knows it. But on her way out of the castle, she runs into Kale, who notices.
Oh my.
Naturally, he gapes at her, as you do.
Huh.
And he immediately says, you are not wearing that. No. Okay, mother. Damn. What the heck? Selena's like, yes I am. And he's like, no, you're gonna freeze to death. And she's like, not with this cloak that I'm holding in my hand, I'm not. And he's like, oh. So clearly he was so busy gaping at her that he didn't even register the cloak. Bless him. And then, as a final ditch effort to get her to change her outfit, he's like, "You're not going to be able to carry any weapons with that outfit." And she was like, "I have weapons on me." And he's just stumped. Those were his 2 arguments. He's got nothing else. But then he starts on the careful speech. You have to be careful. Don't put yourself at risk. Don't take risks. Don't get into danger. Blah, blah, blah. And Selena's so annoyed because she is a strong, independent woman and the best to ever do it, and he appears to have forgotten. So to prove this fact, she says, "I'll see you tomorrow." And Kale's like, "What? What do you mean, see you tomorrow?" And she's like, "You're a big boy. Figure it out yourself." OMG. She's suggesting she's gonna sleep with Archer? Shocking. Kale is also shocked. He's dumbfounded. He's flabbergasted. He has no words. And she leaves. That's it. Low blow, Selena. Low blow. Goodness me. As Selena walks away, she thinks, that told him. Now he knows that I'm a strong, independent woman. I can go and I can do whatever I want. And I feel saddened because Kale just cannot catch a break. Every time we think that maybe something might happen, he just... You know, poor guy, honestly. Moving on, she gets to the fancy schmancy dining room thing, and Archer is blown away by how fabulous she looks. Obviously. During this section, we learn some more lore about Archer. He was 12 when Clarice, who is the most powerful Mahusivist madam in the whole of Adelan. A madam is basically someone who is in charge of ladies and gentlemen of the night. But this Clarice invited him to train with her. And now he is a gentleman of the night, but he now owes Clarice tons of money for that training. Anyway, Selena and Archer flirt a lot, and Selena sends her carriage back to the castle as a little up yours to Kale. Girl, don't cut off your nose to spite your face, okay? You might be needing that carriage. Because of this, she ends up in Archer's carriage. Funny. And Archer invites her into his house for some fun. If you know what I mean. OMG. This book is getting scandalous. However, despite all of the flirting and all of the giggles and the fact that he's really hot, Selena does not want that. You! Why did you send your carriage back then, girl? How were you planning on getting home? Were you gonna walk in your fancy schmancy scandalous dress? Was that the plan? She decides that now would be the perfect time to drop the bomb on Archer, so she turns round and goes, "The king sent me to unalive you." It was a blunt delivery, but that's one way to do it. We head into chapter 11, still in Selena's point of view, and Archer is freaking out, understandably. He's whipped out a hidden stabby thing, and he's cowering in the corner of the carriage like, "Please, don't hurt me. I'll pay you. I have money." And Selena's all like, "I'm not gonna. Chill." So she explains the whole sitch, and he explains that he isn't a rebel, but he does know through some clients of a rebel group that is forming. And it turns out that this group wants to put Aelin Galathinius, the lost heir of Terrason, who supposedly was unalived with the rest of the royal court back in the day when the king went and took over everything, back on the throne. And Selena's thinking, no way, that is just not possible. But according to Archer's clients, it is. And apparently, she's building an army. This is new information. Selena then gives Archer the 2 options. He can either fake his unaliving now and leave, or she can give him a month, because that's how long the king's given her to unalive him. He can stay, get his shit together, and in return, he will give her information on this rebel group. And then at the end of the month, he can leave and also fake his unaliving. But she does warn him that if he is acting sus in any way at all, she will take him out for real. And she does not mean to dinner. He obviously picks the second option, and he invites her to a ball at a client's house tomorrow, who he believes is involved in this rebel group. Awesome. And luckily, Archer offers her his carriage to get home, because otherwise she would have been walking. So thank you, Archer. Much appreciated. When Selena gets back to the castle, she goes to visit Kale because she feels kind of bad about gaslighting him into thinking that she was going to sleep with Archer and then also sending her carriage back so that he would further think that that was what was happening. And she gets to his room and he's still awake even though it's like past midnight and he's clearly been pacing and worrying about her.
Aww.
Bless him. She explains the information that she's gathered about this rebel group and he's all like, just be careful, blah blah blah. And this time she gets mad at him because she's like, why is this man constantly underestimating me? He knows I'm the best to ever do it. Why is he worried? Like, I am not weak. And Kel responds by saying, believe me, Selena, he snarled, his eyes flashing. I know you can look after yourself, but I worry because I care. God's help me, I know I shouldn't, but I do. So I will always tell you to be careful because I will always care what happens. She blinked. Oh, was all she managed. He pinched the bridge of his nose and squeezed his eyes shut, then took a long, deep breath. Selena gave him a sheepish smile. I feel that for real. That's so cute. Anyway, chapter 12. Selena's going to the ball. This is the one at the client's house. This time, it is a masked ball, a masquerade. Exciting. Selena's dressed as like a swan, and Archer is dressed as a wolf, and Archer manages to sneak her into Davis's office. Davis is the guy whose house they're in. Selena has a poke around in there. She does a bit of digging, and she finds this book with a word mark on it. She has a look inside, and there's loads of word marks all over this book, all in this book.
Wow.
Which is weird, and she thinks it's weird because Nehemia had told her that word marks were like this secret, forgotten magic language. So why does everyone and their nan know about it? Also, there is a note written on the inside of the back cover that says, it is only with the eye that one can see rightly. Cryptic. Just as she's staring blankly at this riddle, thinking, what the hell, Davis arrives. Uh-oh, she has been caught. This is bad. However, because she is best to ever do it, and also a professional actress, she hears him before he comes in, and just immediately starts sobbing, tears streaming down her face. I'm sure that that's partially to do with all the trauma she's been through. But girl turns it on immediately and puts on this act that her betrothed has just left her and she's devastated. And the housemaid said that she could come in here and get herself together, you know, and just have a moment. And it works. Or she thinks that it works. But as he gets close to her, he whips out a blade and comes at her. No, she has been discovered.
No.
Luckily, because she's the best to ever do it, she has the reflexes of a ninja and just plops him on the floor immediately. But in the process, he does manage to slice her arm just a little bit. She sets about trying to knock him out because she's not out here trying to unalive anyone at this ball. Just as she's trying to do that, Bro looks at her and goes, don't you want to know what was on that blade? Bruh. She picks up the blade and gives it a sniff and is like, oh crap, that's Gloriella. It's a mild poison, but it can cause hours of paralysis. So she needs to get out of there ASAP. But Davis seems to be putting up a bit of a fight. Rude. And she does end up having to unalive him, but oh well. And at this point, she is really feeling the Gloriella. Like, that stuff is coursing through her veins. So she rips her dress and hops out the window and just starts sprinting back to the castle.
You got a fast car.
At maximum speed. By the time she gets back to the castle, she can barely walk. She's like stumbling around. She's thinking, I need to tell someone what antidote to give me, and I need to get somewhere safe. And that's all that's going through her mind. Girl's got no idea where she's going. She's got no idea what's going on. But her subconscious knows where she needs to go. It's Kale's room. So she stumbles to the door and pushes it open in like a daze. But what she doesn't realize is that she's covered in Davis's blood. Her dress is ripped to shreds and she looks awful. So Kale looks up from his desk and Selena looks like she is on the verge of death.
Wow.
So Kale is shocked, to say the least. But he was already running, smashing through his office. He bellowed her name as her knees buckled and she fell. Oh, she's so dramatic. Anyway, Kale goes absolutely feral. We're in his POV now, and isn't it just a place to be? Obviously, as I said just now, she's a right state, and he immediately thinks that she has been like brutally attacked. So he loses his shit. And he sprints over, catches her, she's falling. And he can't see anything through all the layers of her dress, so he just whips out a blade and just slices it open, because he's got to work out what's going on. And there's just nothing there. She's absolutely unharmed. The only thing that he can see is this tiny gash in her arm. Kale, come on. Put 2 and 2 together. He does. He realizes what she said and is like, oh, I'll just put her dress back together, I guess. So he takes her to her rooms and summons a healer, and they give her a load of this antidote. She spends ages puking. He spends ages holding her hair back. What a gentleman. And then he also sent some of his men out to find out what the heck Medet happened in Rifthold tonight. When these men get back and tell Kale about a man who was unalived in his own office with his own poisoned knife, he was glad Davis was dead. Because if Davis had survived, Kale would have gone back to finish the job himself.
Wow.
We love a protective king. Now, let's not forget, a couple of chapters ago, Kale was talking about how traumatized he was by having to unalive Cain. This is a significant change. And I'm not gonna lie, this is a controversial opinion, but I was low-key a little bit disappointed that she wasn't slightly more injured. Because how embarrassing is it that he ripped off her dress? He was panicking. He was like, oh my gosh, she is not gonna make it. And she just had this tiny scratch on her arm and was like mildly poisoned. Even if it had been slightly stronger, where her life was at risk, you know, the stakes would have been higher and Kale's concern would have been more warranted. Also, I would have been really embarrassed if I was Selena and I'd caused all of that fuss just for a little bit of paralysis. Girl, chill. Sleep it off in an alleyway. I don't know. The next morning, we're in Selena's POV. She's just woken up and Kale's asleep in the chair next to her. How sweet. He watched over her all night.
Aww.
And she's also not paralyzed anymore. Yay! He does threaten to throw her in the dungeons if she ever does anything like that again. And Selena's like, what, because I unalived a man? And Kale's like, no, because you scared the hell out of me. He doesn't care that she unalives people. He just wants her to be safe. The next day, we're on chapter 14, and Selena has gone to the library to see if she can find anything related to the book in Davis's office. She's pretty nervous about going in there because of that freaky creature person that she saw lurking outside the other night. Cal mentioned this earlier, that there's like a rumor going around that there's a secret third library underneath the floor. And Selena's thinking that if that thing from the other night is anywhere, it's probably under there. Selena then decides that it would be a good idea to check out the entire perimeter of the Mahusive library to see if she can find any secret passages or secret doors like the one in her room. So she begins the tedious process of walking around the perimeter of the entire library.
Wow.
And she gets one wall down, nothing, it's just books. But then she gets to the back wall and there are no lights. So she grabs a torch and she sets off. While Selena stares at walls, we check up on Dorian, who's just woken up from a nightmare, to a sub-zero temperature room.
Huh.
And it's so cold that he can see his breath in clouds. In addition to this, when he gets up off of his bed to be like, what the hell? He turns around and he swears that he can see his outline in ice. Surely not. Anyway, back with Selena. She's still staring at walls. However, the wall she's staring at now has a tapestry on it. And what have we learned about tapestries in this castle? Where there's a tapestry, there's probably a secret door. I feel it's probably a good idea to mention as well that she has been doing this for about 3 hours. Oh, how big is this freaking library? Damn. She looks behind it. There's a secret door. Who's surprised? Nobody. And because she does not have a lick of fear inside her soul, she's straight down there. She's like, oh yeah, another one. Let's see what's down here. Couldn't possibly be that freaky creature that I saw the other day in the hall. Who cares? Let's go. Let's do it. It's the secret second library. It's the secret bottom second library. How exciting. Except it's not that exciting, because all it is a bunch of receipts from like old, really old, super old King's bills and stuff. Bit of an anticlimax, that one. So, Selena's wandering around, feeling low-key pretty disappointed, until she finds another hall. At the bottom of the staircase, there's this long hallway with one solid iron door right at the end, which is suspicious, because iron is the only element that's completely immune to magic, which begs the thought, is the iron door keeping someone in or someone out? And I think we just leave it. Let's just head back up Pretend we didn't see anything, move on with our lives. All in favour say aye. Aye. Just me? Okay. Selena does try to open it, but thankfully it's locked and there is no visible keyhole inside. Oh no, we're gonna have to give up. Let's go. I'm ready. However, when she turns around to leave, her amulet starts glowing.
Oh no.
This has happened before. The last time that it happened was in fact when she was in the presence of that freaky creature. Girl, let's go! Let's go! Get out of here! But instead, because she's stupid, she looks under the doorframe and oh, that's a pair of glowing eyes. Probably a rat or something, you know. She does still feel pretty suspicious about it though, so she decides she'll come back later when she's feeling mentally stronger and also has more weapons, which is a good idea, to be honest. And now we take a break from our usual programming for a musical performance because we're in chapter 15 and Selena is sitting in the dining hall watching a musical performance.
Wow.
There's this famous singer lady that she really likes, and she is performing to honor Holland the Brat's return.
Ew.
Great. Anyway, she's a super popular singer, so the Great Hall is packed. Everyone's there. This singer lady sings some hella controversial songs about magic in front of the king, no less.
Oh my gosh!
And during this performance, Selena and Kale have a little moment. Selena didn't know when she began crying. Somehow she skipped a breath and it set her lips wobbling. She shouldn't cry, not here, not with these people around her. But then a warm, calloused hand grasped hers beneath the table, and she turned her head to find Kale looking at her. He smiled slightly, and she knew he understood. So Selena looked at her captain of the guard and smiled back.
Aww.
It said her captain of the guard, not the her. While Selena and Kale are staring into each other's eyes, we skip to Dorian's POV, and he's watching them stare into each other's eyes. And as he's looking at them, he's thinking that Selena never looked at him like that. Not once. Bro, I could have told you that a whole book ago. It's in this moment that Dorian decides that he needs to move on. So Dorian closed his eyes and took another long breath. And when he opened his eyes, he let her go. We love growth and acceptance of things we cannot change and moving forward with our lives. How do you do? Slightly fickle though. Moving swiftly on, Selena's having breakfast with Nehemia again. Girls' breakfast! And Nehemia is again getting on her back for doing the dirty work of the king. And again I say, you knew what her job entailed and you decided to be friends with her. Why are we still getting on her back? Nehemia's all like, is your freedom really worth it? How will I introduce you to my parents now? With each person you kill, I am finding fewer and fewer reasons for remaining your friend. Understandably, Selena's like, right, I'm just gonna come right out with it. I haven't unalived anyone. So, okay, what happened to not telling anyone, girl? But valid, defend yourself. But now that the floodgates have opened, Selena spills the beans about literally everything, including the secret passage in the tomb that's in it, so they head down there. Girls trip to the tomb. Nehemia is jump scared by Mort, and I am 100% sure that Selena did not tell her on purpose, just so that she would be jump scared by Mort. And Selena shows her all the word marks on the walls and tells her about Davis's book, and Nehemia agrees to teach Selena about the word marks. She also says that she's going to look into the riddle from Davis's book. She does assure Selena that it's probably a bunch of nonsense and she shouldn't worry too much about it. Like, he probably just picked it because it looked cool or whatever. I'm not so sure, but okay, whatever you say, girl. While they're in there, Selena finds this like eye shape on the wall. It's got a hole in it, and she thinks about the poem, "It is only with the eye that one can see rightly," from Davis's book, and she's all like, ooh, this must be relevant, this must be involved. And she also thinks the eye of Elena is only with the eye that one can see rightly. There's a hole in the eye here. This is all making a lot of sense. But Nehemia's like, nah, this is way too easy. Don't even bother. I will look into it. And Selena, she's just like, yeah, okay, sounds good. I'm thinking this is a bit sus, personally. And, not gonna lie, This is sounding a lot like book 1 Nehemia again, where she was keeping stuff from Selena and lying to her and not telling her things, and I thought that they discussed this and decided that there were going to be no more secrets between the two of them.
Oh no.
Obviously, none of this is confirmed. She might not be lying. It's giving the same energy. Moving on, chapter 17. We're in Kale's POV. That evening, him and Selena are on guard duty for another event. This time, it's a ball in Holland's honor. Great. I think we've honored this child enough. Anyway, Selena is not happy at all about being on guard duty. She is in a very bad mood, and Kale is very aware of it, and he's staying well away. Smart man. He's actually so aware of her bad mood that he puts her outside. So she's guarding, like, this patio area. But an unknown amount of time later, probably like 2 minutes, I don't know, he looks over and she's gone. She's vanished. Oof. Kale is not amused by this. He stifled a snarl.
Oh, no.
Uh-oh, he's about to turn into a feral beast. But he discovers her outside, dancing with herself at the bottom of the stairs. She's just having a good time. As she's dancing with herself, she spins around, and they make very uncomfortable eye contact. Awkward! And Selena naturally gets pretty defensive, because he's just caught her having a little dance session alone. And she's all like, what are you gonna do about it? So I was dancing with myself. What are you gonna do? You gonna make me run some extra miles, huh? Huh? But instead, Kel asks her to dance with him. Okay. And she says yes. Each step was flawless, lethal, like that first time they'd sparred together so many months ago. She knew his every move, and he knew hers, as though they'd been dancing this waltz together all their lives. Faster, never faltering, never breaking her stare. The rest of the world quieted into nothing. In that moment, after 10 long years, Selena looked at Kale and realised she was home. Oh, how cute! They are in love. Yes! Yes! Sorry, did I say that out loud? My bad. We then hop into Dorian's POV. Woo! And he is in fact watching them. They're outside dancing and he's like staring through the window at them like... He's taken hit after hit right now. It is kind of creepy though. Nehemia turns up and she does this cryptic speech about how you have power within you and it's sleeping right now, but when it wakes up, I will be there to help you. And then she just walks off. She's like, cool. See ya. What could this mean? What is sleeping inside of Dorian? What is asleep inside of this man? I think we're probably about to find out pretty soon, because Dorian then says he stared after the princess, wondering what her last words had meant, and why, when she had said them, something ancient and slumbering deep inside of him had opened an eye. Again, I ask, what is inside of Dorian? We need to give this man like a colonoscopy or something. We need to like be sticking a camera in his stomach and working out what's going on in there, because that doesn't sound healthy. Okay, it's the next day. We're in Selena's POV, and she has gone to see if Archer has any information for her. He does not. He's useless. She is thinking about last night with Kale and their dance. But she's pretty stumped, because after they danced together and it was magical and, you know, she was transported to another dimension where hope is real, Kale threatened her about the consequences of abandoning her post again and then just walked off as if nothing had happened. And during their run this morning, he didn't mention it either. He's either the most nonchalant king to ever exist, or he's socially awkward. She's kind of like, did I dream this? Like, did it even happen? But then we head back into Dorian's POV. Keep up, we're jumping POVs like nobody's business right now. But he is in a meeting to expand the slave camps. Yay. And he is just flabbergasted. He's flabbergasted at the number of slaves. He's flabbergasted at the treatment of said slaves. And he's also flabbergasted at Roland's expansion plans. There's a lot going on. Dorian notices Roland's chunky black ring, and how the king also has a chunky black ring, and how Perrington also has a chunky black ring, and he's feeling suspicious about it. He is a smart man. Dorian's on the up. He's noticing the mistreatment of his people. He's noticing the suspicious things going on in the castle. Like, he's clocking stuff. He then argues against the expansion of the slave camps. Okay. He's fighting for the people's rights, but he does get reprimanded by his dad in front of everyone. Embarrassing. And so he storms away in rage. He is just filled with burning anger, except it's not burning. The feeling of the anger is ice cold. He is just freezing head to toe. He gets as far away from everyone as he possibly can because he is just so angry, and he storms into this abandoned hallway and he punches a wall.
Huh.
Can't say I've ever punched a wall, but I don't think it's the smartest thing to do when you're mad. However, rather than demolishing his hand, the wall cracks and a window smashes. Which showers everything in glass except for Dorian, who is standing there completely unaffected with a ring, a perfect circle around him that there is no glass in. That was not very eloquently put on my part, but I think you can get the picture. He's got no glass. Everywhere else has glass. He's like, and then he throws up. Real. I don't want to say it, but it's sounding a bit like he's got some of that magic. Back in Selena's POV, her and Kale are in his room again. Kale falls asleep, and Selena decides it's time to leave. Selena sighed and eased off the couch, gently shifting Kale's legs so she didn't disturb him. She turned back, though, just once, leaning down to brush her fingers through his short hair, then grazed them along his cheek. Then she quietly slipped from his room, taking the remnants of the chocolate cake with her. Chapter 19, we're in Kale's POV. He's in a meeting with the king, and he is thinking about last night, because he was not asleep when Selena left. He tried not to think about last night. How the brief touch of Selena's fingers through his hair and on his face had sent a pang of desire through him so strong he'd wanted to grab her and pin her on the couch. It had taken all his self-control to keep his breathing steady, to keep pretending that he was asleep. He wants her so bad. As he's sitting in this meeting, he reasons with himself that it was a good thing that he hadn't made a move, because there is a line between them for a reason. Like, he's nothing without his loyalty, and he gave up his whole title and his whole family just to come and be captain of the guard for the king. Couldn't tell you why. Do not know. But if he did have a relationship with Selena, it would affect his relationship with Dorian. It could cost him his position. His loyalty would be called into question. Blah, blah, blah. Bro, all I'm hearing right now are excuses. Why deprive yourself of a relationship with someone who could be your person just because of your loyalty to the king? His relationship with Dorian, that is a reasonable argument as to why he's hesitant. They were friends first, bros before hoes, all that. I get it. Whatever, right? But why is he loyal to the king? I do not understand. This is increasingly frustrating me throughout this book, because in the first book, I will say it, I was a Dorian hater and a Kale supporter. Hands down, 100%. But in this book, I find myself liking Dorian more and Kale less, because Kale has no reason to be loyal to the king. Yes, he's the king and all that, but what has the king ever personally done for him? Surely he's seeing now, more and more, the fact that the king is intrinsically evil. There are people in labor camps. He's unaliving people just because they have magic. He's a bad guy. All-rounder, he's a bad guy. And if the king had picked Kale up off the street, or, his parents had abandoned him and the king had been like, I will take you in personally and train you up to become my captain of the guard, then I would understand the blind loyalty. But right now, I do not get it, because that was not the case. He just happened to grow up in the castle with Dorian, and Dorian was the one who fought for him. I understand being loyal to Dorian, but he's only ever going on about being loyal to the king. The king's a bad guy, man. Wake up. You don't need to be loyal to the king. You should be loyal to Selena, your one true love. Get it through your thick skull. Like, the girl that you are falling in love with, she has been in one of the camps that the king set up. Surely you would have some qualms with that, but we've not heard anything. He's not saying, day by day his trust and his loyalty to the king is wavering because he sees how Selena was treated and he sees how he's treating all of these people. None of that. He's just like, the king, I am loyal to the king. The king's the best. Blah, blah, blah. No. Woo! I thought you were smart, Kale, but I'm increasingly doubting your smartness, just like you should be increasingly doubting the king's niceness. Because he's not. Anyway. That's enough of that. We find out during this meeting that there is a carnival arriving today as a belated Yulmus present for, who can guess, it's Holland. Oh my lord. He's had a famous singer perform for him. He's had a ball in his honor. And now he's got an entire freaking carnival? Damn! I'm just jealous, I guess. Before Kel leaves this meeting, the king pulls him aside to tell him that there has been an anonymous threat on Princess Nehemia's life.
No.
The king orders Kale to keep quiet about this and tells him not to mention it to anyone. And because Kale is stupidly loyal, he's like, okay, I won't tell anyone. Don't worry, king. Not even Selena. Bitch. Don't piss me off. Too late. He already has. We all know how this is going to end. This is just foreshadowing. He's not going to tell Selena. Something's going to happen. She's going to be mad at him. And rightfully so. Kale loses another point. Dorian's climbing. Kale's coming down. Speaking of Dorian, we're in his POV now. Dorian heads outside to check out the carnival and runs into Kale and Selena. It is super awkward and he is low-key jealous of them. But then they come across this wagon run by this old woman called Baba Yellowlegs, who claims to be a witch that can tell fortunes. Interesting. Here, we get a bit of a lore dump about witches. So it turns out there are two different bloodlines of witches, the Crocans and the Iron Teeth. The Crocan witches lived in peace until the Iron Teeth witches overthrew them with violence and took their land. As the last Crocan witch took her last breath while she was being unalived, she cursed the land so that as long as the Iron Teeth witches ruled, the soil would produce nothing. It would be fruitless. And because of this, the Iron Teeth witches kind of scattered all around the world because they couldn't live on the land that they had fought for. Baba Yellowlegs is supposedly an Iron Teeth witch, and her appearance does support this suggestion. She's got iron teeth and also bright yellow legs. So Baba Yellowlegs, iron teeth, the description fits. Dorian is super skeptical of this though. He does not believe that she is a genuine witch. However, Selena does. Girl is shaken. So they leave pretty quick because she's freaking out. Now, that's all we see of Baba Yellowlegs for the moment, but she is relevant later. So remember her. She's pretty hard to forget. Girl's got an appearance. Next up is chapter 20, and Selena is heading down to the tomb because she is convinced that the Eye of Elena will fit in that little eye hole that she found in the wall earlier. And she wants to check it out, but she doesn't want to let Nehemia know because Nehemia's already been like, it's not gonna work. Unfortunately, she is wrong. Nehemia is right. The eye does not work. Nothing happens. She sticks it up to the wall, looks through it, and there's just nothing. And Mort laughs at her. She's humiliated and storms off. We now take a sobering turn because the next day is the 10-year anniversary of the king's invasion of Terrason, and it is also the 10-year anniversary of Selena's parents unaliving. So she heads out super early in the morning to get as far away as she possibly can from the castle, Adeline, Rifthold, the whole thing. We then move over to Kale's POV, and he is painfully unaware of the situation, and so he's really cheesed off that Selena hasn't turned up her morning run. He's like, just because it's cold doesn't mean that she shouldn't be turning up, brah. She normally turns up, bro. Like, clearly something's off. This isn't the first day ever that it's been cold. Calm down. But anyway, he's super mad, so he storms up to her rooms to give her a right old telling off, and Nehemia's sitting there, drinking a cup of tea by herself at the table. Nehemia informs him of the situation and why Selena is not around today and will not be around today, and Kale feels super bad because he works for the guy who's responsible for it. Again, Kale, why are we so hell-bent on being loyal to this man? Let's think it through, Nehemia tells him that Selena probably won't be back until after dark, and so Kale goes on the run alone. We get some Selena POVs of her walking around in a forest and feeling sad. And we do also get a flashback of the time that she snapped in Endovia, took out a bunch of guards, and tried to get herself unalived on the anniversary of her parents unaliving last year. And she got like an inch from the wall of Endovia before she was knocked out by the guards. For some reason, they were told they shouldn't unalive her, so they just knocked her out and stuck her back in the mines. But I won't go into too much detail of that. She gets back to her rooms at like gone midnight, and Kale's waiting for her. We're in his POV again. He got her chocolate cake. How sweet. And this definitely lifts her spirits a bit. And then to add to this, Kale gives her a bit of a hug that does turn into another moment. He shoved that feeling down, even as the silken texture of her hair against his fingers made him want to bury his face in it, and the smell of her, laced with mist and night, had him grazing his nose against her neck. There were other kinds of comfort that he could give her than mere words, and if she needed that kind of distraction... He shoved down that thought too, swallowing it until he nearly choked on it. Her fingers were moving down his back, still digging into his muscles with a fierce kind of possession. If she kept touching him like that, his control was going to slip completely. Oi, oi, Kale. Calm yourself. This is the 10-year anniversary of her parents' unaliving. Back it up. Anyway, she pulls away from him and he is heavily considering kissing her when she says, I can't tell if I should be ashamed of wanting to hold you on this day, or grateful that, despite what happened before now, it somehow brought me to you. Well, that's a mood killer. But Kale is so stunned that he just stands there, like, gaping at her. And she pulls away, plops down, and digs into that chocolate cake. Real. Priorities. Coming back to that previous statement by Selena, they definitely both have reasons to be hesitant about pursuing a relationship. But this is the first time that Kale has ever considered that Selena's reasons to be hesitant might be bigger and harder to get over than his. And this is really real because from Kale's point of view, Selena is an assassin. She's an enemy of the crown because of what she does as a career. But from Selena's point of view, Kale works for and is incredibly loyal to the man who was responsible for her parents' unaliving and also the fall of her entire homeland, and also for her imprisonment for a year. So yeah, I do think she probably has a bit more to battle with, bruh. On to chapter 22, we're in Dorian's POV. He's in the library trying to do some research on how and why he might possibly have some magic. Mystical, magical, oh baby, because what you know, my love. So mystical, magical, oh baby. Won't be my sweet, picking off your blue jeans, dancing at the movies. Benson Boone, is that you? All I'm gonna say is they've never seen me and Benson Boone in the same room.
What?
But then he remembers he needs to go and see Kale because it's his birthday. Happy birthday, Kale. OMG. Remembering that it's Kale's birthday today has now sent Dorian off on a whole nother thinking tangent about the fact that Selena has plans for Kale this evening, and why didn't they invite Dorian to their plans this evening, and what are they going to do in their plans this evening? I am also wondering this, Dorian. Don't worry, King, you're not alone. But obviously, he's wondering all this, but he doesn't care, you know. Kale can have her. Not that she was ever his, or that he ever wanted her to be his, or, you know, that she ever said she was his, and he is super duper over it. But then, boom, all of the books in the aisle that he is currently in come flying out of the shelves, and they're smacking him in the face, and also everywhere else. And he just gets beaten by all these books as they throw themselves off the shelves. And I'm thinking that maybe he's slightly more bothered about this whole Selena and Kale thing than he's letting on. Because I think that might have been him. And he thinks it might have been him too. Because he panics, shoves all of these books back willy-nilly on their shelves, and sprints out of the freaking library. He flees the scene of the crime. In conclusion, bro definitely has magic. Bro's definitely not over Selena. Anyway, as he's running away, Dorian decides that it would be a good idea to go and visit that witch from earlier.
No.
Because he figures she probably won't recognize him, and she might have some answers to his questions. This definitely will not end badly for him. Dorian's stupid. Speaking of Kale and Selena, we head into Selena's POV, and she is super nervous about this dinner that she's arranged for Kale.
Woo!
Especially after last night and that moment that they had when they were hugging. She's dressed up for the occasion. She's got a lovely, pretty, sparkly dress on. She's looking gorge. And she meets him in the entrance hall, and obviously, of course, there are vibes. There are vibes going on between the two of them. And they head off to this super special birthday dinner that Selena's prepared for Kale. It's on the roof of this apothecary. It's a glass greenhouse, and Selena's put up loads of pretty lights, plants, and she's decorated it all to look like one of the gardens described in the song that her and Kale were listening to in the Great Hall earlier on in the book. So it's very meaningful to both of them. Kale is so touched. He nearly cries. He says that this is the sweetest thing and the most thoughtful thing that anyone has ever done for him in his whole freaking life. Selena's even had all of his favorite dishes prepared by a special chef. She's been like watching everything that he's been eating and which stuff that he likes and things, and she's got the chef to prepare it all. She's so thoughtful. They have a grand old time, and afterwards they're standing on the balcony looking at the stars. How romantic. And I'm out here thinking something might be about to happen. Maybe they're about to kiss. So naturally, Selena decides that now is the perfect moment to tell Kale that she is not unalived any of the people that the king has asked her to. Perfect timing! Just what we needed right now. That's not quite where I thought we were going with this. It's also not where Kale thought this was going. And he's like, are you joking? Are you joking? Please be joking. Then we get a Kale POV, so now we're in his mind, and he is just flabbergasted at both her stupidity and her bravery. Same. And he's terrified both for and of her. Same. And he instantly loses it and starts yelling at her that the king will unalive her, no question. And she responds saying, well, at least I'm not unaliving innocent people. And Kale's all like, they're not innocent, they're traitors to the crown. And Selena's like, what, just because they're helping people? Real. Clock it, Selena. It's not clocking to you, is it? It's not clocking to you that I'm standing on business. Anyway, Kale's not really mad that she isn't unaliving the people. He's more mad that she's put herself in this situation where she could be found out by the king, because he never really wanted her to be unaliving these people anyway. Like, he always had a bit of a moral issue with it. So it's more anger from a place of concern as opposed to anger from a place of, but you're not unaliving the traitors, raw. And it's very cute that Kale is so concerned about her safety. Selena explains to Kale that she wants to use the information that Arch has been giving her to strike a bargain with the king to either let her go or to shorten her contract, so that by the time he finds out that she hasn't been unaliving any of the people that she's supposed to be unaliving, she'll be long gone. Yeah. And at this, Kale thinks, with his big, mad brain, if she leaves, she might find someone else, and then they're gonna fall in love with her, and then they're gonna get married, and she's gonna forget about me. And he cannot be having that. So, Kale, the most loyal man in the whole of Adeline, the man who gave up his family to be the captain of the guard for the king, he says, I'll go with you. The peak of loyalty. Now, I find it rather interesting that this is what has caused Kale to question whether or not he wants to leave his position. Not the king's treatment of his people, not all of the slave camps that he's built, not all of the people he's unalived, but a girl. And Selena is also confused by this revelation. And she's like, hold up, what about your job? You know, you love your job, that's your whole life. And this is the perfect opportunity for Kale to think, well, you know, it's not just Selena that's making me question my loyalty to the king. It's also all of the stuff that I've previously mentioned. Me, not him, by the way, because he's not thinking about any of that. But instead, he says, perhaps my duties aren't what I expected them to be. The king kept things from him. There were so many secrets, and perhaps he was little more than a puppet, part of the illusion that he was starting to see through. So we're questioning our loyalty because the king's lied to you, not because of all of the blatant evilness going on. It's the fact that he's not been telling you the truth. Also, all leaders lie. That's like part of their job. Kale's job as captain of the guard is on a need-to-know basis. The king isn't going to be telling him everything. He should be aware of that. Anyway. This has the opposite effect on Selena. She is not icked out like I am. She is 100% sold, and she starts crying, and she tells him that he reminds her of what the world should and could be. She's never seen this loyalty before.
Wow.
And then they kiss. I know that I've just had a big rant about Kale, and I've said that he's really annoying me. But I am genuinely happy that they have kissed. It's been a long time coming. They both really like each other, and I'm happy for them. So let's move past my rant. We'll leave it behind us. Water under the bridge. And let's be excited, because they're kissing. Woo! Now we move back over into Selena's point of view, and this kiss is very different from her first kiss with Dorian. The kiss obliterated her. It was like coming home or being born or suddenly finding an entire half of herself that had been missing. Kale is a good kisser, I guess. They make out on the balcony for a bit, and then they make out in the carriage home for a bit, and then they get back to her rooms.
Wait a minute!
And I won't go into too much detail, and the book doesn't go into too much detail, so you're not missing out on much here. But Kale's like, are you sure? And Celaena's like, I've never been more sure of anything in my life. And then it fades to black. And I think you know what happens. I think we know what happens. Not gonna say too much. They smash. So the next morning, they wake up and they're still in bed together. Who'da thunk? Kale's got a soft side. He's a softie, really. He asks if she's all right, and she's like, yeah, pretty good. They decide that it's a good idea to keep their relationship a secret for now, because Kale's not 100% sure how the king would react, and also they're not sure how Dorian would react if he found out either. Kale then reveals that he has had feelings for Celaena since Samhain, which was when he gave her that ring as a present, but it was only at the Yulmus ball that he 100% knew that he was super jealous of her being with anyone else. He's had a crush on her for a long old time, bless his soul. Like, it's only just happening, but bro's been down bad for a while. Celaena's still not even sure when she developed these feelings for Kale, but she's starting to think that it was always meant to be him, you know? And I think we all could have told you that, Celaena. Dorian never really stood a chance. Poor chap. She was still figuring out when it had happened exactly. It somehow felt as if it had always been Kale, even from the very beginning, even before they'd ever met. He began to protest, but she pulled him back down on top of her. And that's enough talking. I might be tired, but there are still plenty of things to do instead of going for a run. The grin Kale gave her was hungry and wicked enough that she shrieked when he yanked her under the blankets. Okay, Kale's crazy. What the heck? He's a crazy guy. Who'd have thought that he had this wild side to him? Oh. How exciting. They finally got their happily ever after. She says, knowing that we're only halfway through the book, and there's still hundreds of pages left. Surely nothing bad could happen in the second half. Surely not. Chapter 24. We're in Dorian's POV. Woo! It's the next day, and he's finally worked up the nerve to go and see Baba Yellowlegs. Don't do it. But he can't hear us, so he goes anyway. She's on her lunch, munching on a bunch of chicken. Munching on chicken. Doesn't really rhyme. And he pays her 4 fat gold coins to answer as many questions as he wants, and also to keep her mouth shut about it. Dorian asks Baba Yellowlegs if there is any possibility that someone, one person, could have magic in this day and age. And Baba Yellowlegs is like, nah. I guess that's it then. He can leave. He's like, okay, but what if someone did though? And Baba Yellowlegs is like, well, if you want to work out how that would be possible, first you need to work out why magic disappeared in the first place, because some other continents still have it, but here does not. And Dorian's like, okay, cool, thanks, witch lady. And then he leaves, thinking, wow, that went well. I didn't get that much information, but at least she didn't work out who I was. And we all sigh. Anyway, we move on back to Celaena's point of view. We get an update about the whole Archer situation, and he's being super sketchy with the information he's giving her. He gave her a list of potential rebels, and then the entire list of potential rebels left with their families a couple of days later because Archer had tipped off one of the members of this organization saying that their lives were at risk. What a weirdo. Why would you do that? Obviously, Celaena's annoyed about this. She's like, why even bother giving me the list? What was the point? And he's like, I won't do it again, I promise. We don't believe you. But she wants to go and see Kale, her boyfriend. So she doesn't care that much. Next up's a Kale POV. It's been 4 days since his birthday dinner, and 4 days since him and Celaena got together. And they have spent every possible moment together since. Aww. He has a meeting now, though. And he's thinking about her when she shows up in the meeting and is like, the king wants to speak to you. So he leaves, but it turns out the king does not want to speak to him. Celaena just wants to be alone together.
Oh my god!
Damn, girl. mom. Anyway, they do it in a broom closet. OMG! Scandalous! We hop back into Selena's POV. Selena and Nehemia are having a bit of a gossip session, and Selena's telling Nehemia about all of her fun times with Kale. And Nehemia's like, get it, girl! I'm happy for you! And Selena's like, I'm happy for me too. And how nice is that? Because she has not been happy very much in her life. So, however, then the conversation takes a turn when Nehemia tells Selena that the king has basically heavily implied that if Nehemia doesn't talk to the Ilway rebels and get them to back down, he's just gonna unalive all of them. So she's in a tough spot right now. And Selena's like, oh, that sucks. I'm sorry to hear that. And Nehemia asks Selena to promise her to help her free Ilway. But Selena responds like, no, that's really stupid. Like, if you try to do that, you're all going to be unalived. Like, he's just going to unalive you. And I don't want any part in that. Because obviously they're friends. Selena doesn't want to see her friend get unalived. And in her experience, when people have tried to stand up to the king, they have been unalived. Her whole home kingdom was unalived by the king. So she's got experience in this. She's got trauma. And she does not want to see it repeated and feel like she was a part of it. So I do understand. But Nehemia does not understand. And she's all like, you've literally been chosen by the gods. Like, if anyone can do it, you can do it. And if we don't do something now, the king's just going to be too powerful and we'll never have an opportunity again. But Selena's all like, no, he's already too powerful. There's nothing we can do. So they're having a right domestic about this. It's not going well. And it all comes to a head when Nehemia calls Selena a coward. And Selena says, when your people are lying dead around you, she hissed, don't come crying to me. So that's awkward. This is the biggest fight they've had. And I do understand both point of views here. Like, Nehemia wants to protect her people, whereas Selena's been there, she's done that, she's got the t-shirt, and she doesn't want another one. They hate to see a girl boss winning, and these two girl bosses were clearly winning a bit too hard, so we had to split them up. So, chapter 25. We now have a very mysterious and ominous conversation between an unknown princess and an unknown queen. However, there's only one princess I know of, and it's Nehemia. And there's only one queen that I know of, and it's not Dorian's mother. So I'm going for Nehemia and Elena, having a little chat. What's this about, ladies? What's going on here? One of them has to break, the queen said to the princess. Only then can it begin. I know, the princess said softly, but the prince isn't ready. It has to be her. Then do you understand what I am asking of you? The princess looked up, toward the shaft of moonlight spilling into the tomb. When she looked back at the ancient queen, her eyes were bright. Yes. Then do what needs to be done. So I still have no idea what's going on. Don't know about you. Let's put our heads together. We've deduced that the people talking are Nehemia and Elena. Cool. I'm also assuming that the people they're talking about are Selena and Dorian. So clearly they're trying to start something, but Nehemia doesn't think that Dorian's ready to be involved in whatever this something is. So they're going for Selena. But what needs to be done? What needs to be done, guys? I have a bad feeling about this. Also, this does mean that Elena and Nehemia have been in cahoots this entire time. Unless Nehemia and Elena only met after Selena showed Nehemia the tomb. But I definitely don't believe that. Especially considering the fact that Nehemia was the one that opened the portal for Elena to come through during the duel so that she could save Selena. So really, maybe we should have put 2 and 2 together earlier. Maybe Selena should have put 2 and 2 together earlier and been like, well, how did you know to open the portal for Elena? I don't know. We're here now. Something's gonna go down. Something needs to be done. But what is it? Anyway, before she leaves, Nehemia says she won't understand. And when she goes over the edge, there will be nothing to pull her back. She will find her way back. She always does. I don't like this. I don't like this at all. What are you gonna do that's gonna break Selena? Don't break our girl. I beg. Moving on. Chapter 26, we're in Kale's POV. They're having a little hunting party with like the king and Dorian and Roland and then all these other lords and stuff. And Kale's bored out of his mind because none of them can shoot.
Wow.
They're all terrible aims and he is hating every second of it. The king comes over to Kale to inform him that he's having Nehemia questioned tomorrow night. and he wants Kale to make sure that there are no interruptions or disturbances, if you know what I mean. He means Selena. And because Kale is still, after everything he said to Selena, blindly loyal to the king, he's like, yeah, sure, I got your back, king. I can do that for you. He's so dumb. So did you mean it when you were like, oh, the king's keeping secrets from me, so maybe I'm not going to be loyal to him, maybe I'll come with you? Because I'm not believing it now. You are the dumbest man alive. Then Dorian rides over, and he just drops a casual, treat her well, to Kel, and like rides off. What a funny chap. What a funny guy. And Kel's just like left on his horse, like, okay. As predicted, Kel does not tell Selena about what the king said about Nehemia, the threat on her life, or the questioning in the council chamber tomorrow night. And he reasons with himself that this is because the king would never hurt her. You know, she's really well liked among the people, and blah blah blah. But that has stopped the king literally never before. So I don't really think that's a valid argument. Anyway, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, and he can't sleep. He's in bed with Selena. But he leaves her sleeping in his room to go for a walk outside to clear his mind. He needs some fresh air, and he needs to think about being loyal and stuff.
Ew.
Well, as he's walking through some hedges, Karma catches up to him, and some person puts like a cloth over his face, and he passes out. Oh! He's been kidnapped. Sorry, let me turn up the fear for a second. Oh my gosh! He's been taken. You know what I say? Karma's the bitch. I should've known better. If I had a wish, I would've never ripped around. Nothing nice wish. Karma's a bitch. Karma, and she's with you right now. I will say, how did whoever was trying to kidnap him know that he would be outside exactly there at 3 o'clock in the morning? Because he had not planned that in his head. He just spontaneously went outside. So how did they know he'd be there? I don't know. Seems a bit suspicious to me. I've just realised, I think I know the entirety of Karma's a Bitch by Jojo Siwa, just off the top of my head. It's ingrained into my very soul. I don't really know how that happened, but I'm scared. What are you doing, Joelle? Anyway, back to the topic at hand. We're on chapter 27, and we're back in Selena's point of view. Funnily enough, Kel isn't there when she wakes up.
Wow.
She just assumes that he's working though, and she goes about her day, but when she gets back to her rooms, he still isn't there. I wonder why. But she just assumes that he's still working. It's not unheard of. So she has her dinner by herself, reads a book. Sounds like a great time, girl. But when it gets to 10 p.m. and he still has not shown up, she starts panicking a little bit. You know, the fear starts setting in that maybe something's amiss. So she decides to head to his room to check. You know, he might just be asleep. He might have gone to his room, sat down, and just fallen asleep. It's totally plausible. And when she arrives at his room, his sword is on the table. His sword was not on the table before. With a note on the top, which was also not there before. The note says that they have the captain. Who's they? And it says to come and meet them in this warehouse alone before tomorrow morning, or they will unalive Kel. And unfortunately, Selena has like mega trauma overload and transforms into like beast mode, evil villain arc Selena. She's gonna unalive everyone in her path, fear her.
Oh no.
So, good luck, guys. She's like a transformer. She transforms from regular old Selena, best to ever do it, Adeline's assassin, to I am your worst nightmare. I will make you suffer. Fear me. No one's getting out of this situation alive, Selena.
Huh.
An icy, endless rage swept through her, wiping away everything except the plan that she could see with brutal clarity. The calm, Arabin Hamel had once called it. Even he had never realised just how calm she could get when she went over the edge. If they wanted Adeline's assassin, they'd get her. And word helped them when she arrived. Good luck, guys! Next up is Kale's POV. He's woken up chained to a wall in a warehouse.
Woo!
Yay! Turns out he's been kidnapped by this group of people in robes and hoods and weapons. I don't know. He's confused and also angry, and so they do beat him up a couple of times because he gets a bit too gobby. Poor guy. He's going through it today. Not a great day to be Kale. The people who've taken him get more and more agitated as the day goes on, because obviously Selena hasn't shown up. because she's just out there doing her thing. Kale doesn't know this. He doesn't know why he's been taken. But he does overhear an argument between two of them. She has until dawn. She'll show up. She. That word was the worst thing he'd ever heard, because there was only one she who would bother to show up for him. One she that he could be used against. You hurt her, he said, his voice hoarse from a day without water, and I'll rip you apart with my bare hands. Kind of cute though. Even though he's chained to a wall, he's still like, raw, I'll protect Selena. Me. I'm not sure I believe him though, because he was very easy to capture. So I fear it's an all talk no chat kind of situation that we've got going on here. Sorry, Kel. Sorry. One of the captors does agree with me though, and he does say the same thing. He's like, well, I'm not so sure about that, because look at you now. You got caught pretty easy, bruh. I do, however, believe that Selena can and will do some damage, and Kale agrees with me, because he says, I don't think you realise who you're dealing with. The man clicked his tongue. If you were that good, you would be more than the captain of the guard. Kale let out a low, breathy laugh. I wasn't talking about me. She's just one girl. Though his guts were twisting at the thought of her in this place, with these people, though he was considering every possible way to get himself and Selena out of here alive, he gave the man a grin. And you're really in for a surprise. That is a classic for a character to be like, oh man, you don't know who you're dealing with, and them to be like, whoa, look at you, you're just so pathetic, and they're like, I wasn't talking about me. Effective, simple, that is a banger of a line. Very well used, and very accurate. There can be only one best to ever do it, and it isn't Kale. Chapter 28, and we're back in Selena's POV. She is mad. She is really, really mad. She is also planning on unaliving everyone in the warehouse. Obviously, apart from Kel. That would kind of defeat the point if she planned on unaliving him as well. Anyway, she has grabbed every weapon she can possibly find in her general vicinity and hopped over all the roofs to get to the warehouse in question and to suss it out. It's this massive warehouse. It's 3 stories high. She's across from the second floor window, so she can see straight in to the mezzanine on the second floor and right down to the bottom floor where Kale is. Hey King, how you doing over there in chains? She sees him and he's tied up, and she gets even more mad, if that was possible. Didn't think it was. And she decides, why not? I've got an open entryway right in front of me. Let's take it. So she just hops through the window.
Wow.
It's one way to do it. Why go through the front door when you can leap through a window? Don't think it would be my personal method of entering a space, but you do you, girl. Clearly, you have better control of your limbs than I. We hop straight back into Kale's POV, just in time for him to witness Selena jumping through the window.
Woo!
She beast modes all of the dudes in robes, and she is cutting them down like they are blades of grass, and she is a lawnmower. Kale is horrified, and at last, after all these months, he saw the lethal predator he'd expected to find in the mines. There was nothing human in her eyes, nothing remotely merciful. It froze his heart. See what I mean? She's transformed, she's entered her villain era. We're back in Selena's POV again. Keep up, guys. We're going. Kill Selena, kill Selena, kill Selena. Back to Selena. As she's slicing everyone down, some old guy starts yelling at everyone to stop. Like, stop it, stop it, stop. And he tries to get her to hear them out, but she was low-key having a good time, taking all these guys out. So she makes eye contact with this angry-looking dude standing in front of Kale and just, like, grins smugly at him. And because he clearly is an idiot, he throws himself at her, and all the fighting starts all over again. It's like, you know, the switch is flipped and they're all fighting again. I don't know who everyone else is fighting. They must all be trying to fight her, and she's just absolutely beast moding literally every single person. It's her versus every single person in this building, and she is still winning somehow. This is it. We're finally seeing that she is the best to ever do it. And I will say, let's flash back to that one time earlier in the last book when Kane just like plucked that weapon out of her hand, and she was just like, oh no, he has my weapon now. Where was this? Where was this energy then, Selena? Where was this energy when you were fighting Kane in the final duel? Anyway, we've moved on from that, because now she has unleashed the beast within her. In the midst of all of this, Archer jumps out. Archer's involved. Oh. And he takes an arrow to save Selena's life. Ooh. He gets Scott. Now he's on the floor. This is terrible. When he gets up, she realizes he's wearing the same garb as all of these other dudes with the robes, and that he must be also involved in this situation. And therefore, he also set her up. Now she's mad again. Archer lets Kel go, and Selena says, "You have one sentence to convince me not to unalive all the rest of you bitches, because I'm tempted right now." To which Archer responds, "I have been working with Nehemia to lead these people for the past 6 months." And that does it. Selena's like, So, it turns out that Nehemia came to Rifthold with the intention of starting a group that could stand against the king and discover all of his plans, and she has been feeding all of the information that Selena's been giving her back to this group that Archer is a part of, and also was helping her lead.
Huh.
And at first, Selena's like, no way. This is way too far-fetched. There's no way that all of this can be intertwined together so perfectly. But then she starts putting things together. And it's giving my best friend who promised that we'd never keep secrets from each other ever again has actually been lying to me this whole time, even more than I thought that she'd been lying to me beforehand. And now my trust is intrinsically and forever broken between the two of us, and I don't know how I'm ever going to get over this. And Selena, in a last-ditch effort to, debunk this statement that Archer has made, is like, well, if Nehemia's part of this group, where is she now? And that is when Archer turns to Kale and says, "Ask him." Oh no. Where is she, Kale? Archer then tells Selena that he heard Kale was told that there was an anonymous threat made to Nehemia's life, and also about the king questioning her tonight. But it's not questioning that they're going to be doing tonight, is it, Captain? Oh no. Oh no. What are they going to be doing to her tonight, Kale? What are they going to be doing? And everything's going in slow-mo for Selena now, because it's like she just thought that she was being Sam 2.0'd with Kale just then, and now it's like, psych, you're actually being like Sam 2.5'd because Kale wasn't the one that was being unalived. They're not questioning Nehemia. I think we all know what they're going to do to Nehemia. This is absolutely terrible. Selena's really far away from the castle, and she manages to ask, "Where is Nehemia?" But Archer just shook his head, his eyes bright with tears. "They aren't going to question her, Selena. And by the time my men get there, I think it will be too late. Too late." Selena turned to Kale. His face was stricken and pale. Archer shook his head again. "I'm sorry." This is very bad. We move on to chapter 29, and Selena has sprinted back to the castle at full speed. Kale got on a horse seconds after Selena left, and she still beat him back to the castle. You know. Apologies, I just dropped my microphone on the floor. She crashes through a side door in the castle, and Dorian's there, just having a yap sesh with some of the guards, but she's not got time to stop, so she runs, and obviously Dorian and all these guards are like, "Where's she going? We better go as well." So they follow her, and they're all running full speed ahead to Nehemia's room, and she's thinking, this cannot be happening. The world owes me, I've been through enough. She's coming up with a plan for what exactly she's going to tell Nehemia as soon as she gets into her room. She's going to get her to hide so that she can wait for the person who's apparently coming to unalive her. Everything will be fine. She can explain everything to Nehemia afterwards. And it's so much worse because the last conversation that Selena and Nehemia have had up to this point was a massive fight. She gets to Nehemia's rooms and the door's shut and it looks like it's intact. So she's like, this is fine. There's not been any forced entry. She's fine. I'm just going to bust in there, shove her in a closet, and we'll go from there. She busts in, and I think we know what this has all been building to. Nehemia has been unalived, and so have her guards, very elaborately. It's not pleasant. And that's the end of part 1. That's it. It finishes there. The last sentence is, Selena stood in the center of the freezing bedroom, gazing at the bed, and the princess's broken body atop it. Nehemia was... And that's it. There you go. You can see. So, that's where I'm going to leave it. Doesn't look good for Selena. Doesn't look good for Kale. Uh-oh. Can't imagine they're going to be able to come back from that. I have no idea how long this video is going to be because I have been filming for hours. And I also don't know how much of my yapping is actually going to be relevant to the storyline. So we'll see, I suppose. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, give it a like. And do subscribe if you enjoy these videos. I am hoping to make more like this. I've got lots of series and lots of standalone books that I really want to review and also summarize and yap about in a hopefully entertaining way. Thank you for being here, and I hope you have a wonderful day.